Why your cat meows at nothing? Vets finally have an answer. 2 a.m. A dark hallway. A cat staring at a blank wall. And meowing. Your cat is not meowing at nothing. There has never been a single time they did. For years, vets dismissed it as quirky behavior, a glitch, something cats just do. But when researchers finally put sensors in the room and measured what was actually there, what they detected changed how we understand cats entirely. Your cat has been responding to something real, something in that exact spot, something you cannot see, cannot hear, and cannot feel. And it's not ghosts. The actual answer is both more fascinating and slightly more concerning than anything you've imagined. There are 5 specific triggers vets have now identified, and at least one of them is happening inside your home right now. By the end of this video, you will know what each of those 5 triggers is, in order of how commonly they appear in homes just like yours. You will know the specific behavioral signature that tells you which one your cat is responding to. And you will know which trigger requires you to pick up the phone and call someone, because one of them is not harmless. And if your cat has been flagging a specific spot repeatedly, for weeks or months, there's a reason vets say you should not ignore it. Trigger 1. Pest and rodent activity, the most common answer. The most frequent explanation that veterinary behaviorists give for cats meowing at walls and ceilings is also the most immediately actionable. Something is moving. Not on the other side of the wall, inside it. Cats hear up to 85 kHz, a range that captures the precise acoustic signatures of mice, rats, squirrels, and insects traveling through wall cavities. The sounds these animals produce as they move are inaudible to humans. They are clearly audible to cats. What looks to you like your cat reacting to nothing is, in most documented cases, your cat reacting to movement happening in a space you have no sensory access to. But here is what distinguishes trigger 1 from the others. The behavioral signature is specific. A cat responding to pest activity doesn't just meow. They meow at a consistent location, the same wall section, the same ceiling corner, the same patch of floor near a baseboard. They return to it. They track it. Their ears rotate toward the surface, their paw may press against it, and the timing matters. Rodent activity peaks at dawn and dusk, the same times most owners report their cat's wall-directed behavior intensifying. Pest control professionals have documented arriving to properties specifically because a cat's persistent flagging behavior led an owner to investigate, and finding exactly the kind of wall cavity activity that produces sounds in cat-audible frequencies. Your cat has been telling you something, in the only language they have, with the precision that a trained professional would recognize. The question is whether you've been listening. Trigger 2. Electrical and ultrasonic frequencies, the one in your outlet. This is the trigger that surprises people most, because the source isn't hidden in the walls, it's plugged into them. Ultrasonic pest repellers, devices marketed as a humane pest deterrent, operate at frequencies specifically designed to be inaudible to humans. The marketing point is that you won't hear a thing. Your cat will hear everything. These devices emit continuous sound in the 15 to 65 kHz range. To a cat with a hearing ceiling of 85 kHz, this is not a background hum. It is an active, ongoing, intrusive sound source that never turns off. If you own one of these devices and your cat meows near the outlet it's plugged into, that is not coincidence. That is your cat telling you, as directly as they are able, that something in that location is unpleasant to experience. Beyond ultrasonic devices, aging electrical systems, fluorescent fixtures operating under partial load, and certain types of wiring under stress produce electromagnetic fields and high-frequency acoustic byproducts in ranges detectable to cats. The behavioral signature here differs slightly from pest detection. Cats responding to ultrasonic or electrical frequency sources tend to show distress rather than predatory interest. Repeated approach and retreat rather than sustained attention. Vocalization that sounds less like hunting and more like complaint. Some cats show ear scratching or head shaking when near the source. If you have an ultrasonic device anywhere in your home, remove it for 7 days. Watch whether the behavior changes. This is the fastest diagnostic test available to you. If you do not own one and the behavior persists near an electrical fixture, have an electrician assess it. An electrical fault your cat has been warning you about for months is worth more than the cost of a service call. Trigger 3. Sensory hypersensitivity and neurological events. The one vets flag first. Here is where the tone of this video has to shift slightly. Because trigger 3 is not about what's in your home, it's about what's happening in your cat. Some cats, through temperament, neurological sensitivity, or age-related changes, experience sensory processing that operates outside the typical feline range. They respond to stimuli that are real, but at intensities that don't register as significant to other animals or to humans. A pressure change in the room, a very low-frequency vibration from construction 3 streets away, a scent trace that is dissipated to undetectable levels. This becomes medically relevant when the behavior is new in a cat over 10 years old. Feline cognitive dysfunction, the cat equivalent of dementia, is significantly underdiagnosed in part because its early signs are dismissed as quirky. Increased vocalization, particularly at night. Apparent responses to stimuli that aren't there. A cat that has never done this, suddenly doing it. Hyperthyroidism, which affects roughly 10% of cats over 10, produces increased vocalization as one of its most consistent early presentations. The cat is not responding to something in the room. The cat is responding to something happening inside their own nervous system. This is the trigger that most urgently requires a vet visit. Not because it's the most common, it isn't, but because the conditions associated with it are treatable when caught early, and progression accelerates significantly if they aren't. The rule is simple. If this behavior is new in a cat over 8 years old, call your vet. Not this week, this week. Trigger 4. Visual phenomena. What your cat can see that you can't. Cats and humans do not see the same world. Your cat's visual system is calibrated for motion detection in low light at a sensitivity that exceeds human capability by a significant margin. They detect movement at speeds and light levels where humans perceive only stillness. And their flicker fusion rate, the threshold at which consecutive light pulses appear as continuous light rather than individual flashes, is significantly higher than ours. What this means practically? Your television produces a flickering image at a refresh rate that your visual system processes as continuous motion. Your cat sees the flicker. To their visual processing, a television playing in a dim room is producing visible stroboscopic stimulation from a light source on a wall. LED bulbs operating below full capacity, fluorescent fixtures at the end of their lifespan, a lamp with a loose connection, all produce light variation at frequencies below human flicker fusion threshold and well within cat perception range. A cat meowing at a wall near a television is frequently responding to a visual stimulus originating from that television. A cat meowing at a ceiling corner where a lamp is positioned may be tracking a perceived flicker in the light source. The behavioral signature. The cat's eyes are visibly tracking, pupils dilated, body posture low and tense. The hunting stance. The sound they make is more likely to be the chattering or chirping response to a visible moving stimulus than the sustained meow of trigger 1 or the distress vocalization of trigger 2. This is typically the most benign trigger on this list, but if you observe it alongside unusual eye movement, loss of balance, or any coordination change, have a vet assess vision and neurological status. Trigger 5. Scent memory. The ghost in the wall that isn't. This is the trigger most people don't consider, and the one that, once understood, tends to reframe a lot of behavior owners had written off as inexplicable. Scent information from previous occupants of a space, animal and human, can persist in walls, flooring, and soft materials for years beyond any human detection threshold. A cat in a home that previously housed another cat will regularly respond to scent signals from that animal in the specific locations they used most: sleeping spots, patrol routes, territory markers. This is not the current cat perceiving a ghost. This is the current cat reading a message that was encoded in the physical structure of the space by another animal, sometimes years before they arrived. The behavioral signature is specific. Extensive scent investigation before or during the vocalization. Location-specific but not surface-specific. The cat is not reacting to something behind the wall, but to something on it or absorbed into it. The behavior is exploratory in character rather than predatory or distressed. And there is a variation of this trigger that carries more emotional weight. If you have recently lost a cat, and another cat in your home is responding to locations that cat used, what you are witnessing is scent-based grief detection. Your cat knows someone who used to be there is no longer there. They are not confused. They are looking for information about a significant change in their social environment. They are not seeing a ghost. They are reading a record. And what that record tells them is, someone was here. Where are they now? Part 6. The Assessment. How to tell which trigger your cat is responding to. Here is the practical framework. Ask 3 questions about the behavior. First, is it location specific? If your cat consistently returns to the same spot, the same wall section, the same corner, the same 3 feet of baseboard, the cause is almost certainly physical and localized. Trigger 1, 2, or 5. If the behavior moves around or is generalized across the room, trigger 3 becomes more relevant. Trigger 4 tends to follow the light source. Second, what is the behavioral character of the vocalization? Predatory and focused, alert posture, ear tracking, paw investigation of the surface points to trigger 1. Distressed and repetitive, approach, retreat, ear scratching, head shaking, points to trigger 2. Disoriented or non-directional, the cat doesn't seem to be oriented toward a specific point. Consider trigger 3. Eyes tracking, chattering sound, dilated pupils, trigger 4. Extensive sniffing, exploratory body language, trigger 5. Third, is this behavior new? If your cat has done this occasionally for years, in a cat without other symptoms, the risk profile is low. If this is new behavior, and especially if your cat is over 8, do not file it under cats are weird and I'll look it up later. Look it up now. Call the vet this week. Your cat is not meowing at nothing. They have never once meowed at nothing. The only question has always been which of these 5 things they are meowing at, and whether you are paying enough attention to find out. Think about every time you laughed at your cat for meowing at the wall. Every time you said, "What are you doing?" and went back to your phone. Every time someone in your home said, "Cats are just weird," and everyone laughed, and that was the end of it. Here is what was likely happening. Your cat was operating as a continuous environmental monitoring system, processing frequencies you will never have access to, detecting chemical signatures your biology cannot register, seeing light variation in your living room that your visual system quietly rounds to 0. And when that processing produced a result, a sound in the wall, a frequency from your outlet, a scent record embedded in your floor, a flicker your lamp has been producing for months, they reported it, in the only language available to them, and were laughed at. This is not a guilt trip. Most owners who dismiss this behavior did so because the information needed to understand it didn't exist in any accessible form. Vets dismissed it, pet advice columns dismissed it. The cultural shorthand for cats meowing at walls was, "Cats are mysterious and this is just one of those things." It was never one of those things. It was always something specific, something real, something your cat was trying to tell you. And the difference between the owner who figures it out and the owner who doesn't is not intelligence. It's not how much they love their cat. It's whether they decide that their cat's persistent, specific, repeated report about a location in their home is worth taking seriously. Your cat has been paying attention to your home with equipment you don't have. Start paying attention to their reports. Tag someone whose cat does this. Tell them, the cat isn't crazy. They're working at a frequency you can't access. And they've been trying to tell you something this whole time. If this changed how you'll listen the next time your cat meows at a wall, hit subscribe. Every week we go deeper into what your cat is actually detecting, reporting, and responding to, and why the answers are almost always more specific than, "That's just cats." Next week, 8 silent signs your cat may be sick, signs most owners miss until they matter. If you have a cat, that video is not optional. Drop a comment below. Does your cat meow at a specific location? Always the same spot? Always the same time of day? Tell me the details, because the details matter, and I want to help you figure out which trigger fits. Share this with someone whose cat does this. Tell them to check the outlet first.